What is up, all of my beautiful freaking people? Welcome back to another episode of FML Talk. I am really stoked to dive into today's episode. My really good friend Maria Breese is here. She is an actress, a producer, an all-around fucking just like rock star female in this world. And we are going to dive in to all things dealing with a narcissistic family member. Sit back, grab a fucking drink, y'all are gonna need it, and welcome to FML Talk.
Oh my God. Wait, how old was the other girl? 19. Can you believe that shit?
Hey, this is Gabrielle Stone.
Good book.
He did what? 48 hours?
What a dick.
Yeah, but have you seen all the photos on her Instagram?
And this is FML Talk.
Oh, no, she didn't.
Okay, I get a lot of requests for discussing how to deal with narcissists when it's not someone you're in a relationship with or recovering from, but someone that you can't just say, I'm done, bye-bye, and cut off. Although I do know people that have done that with family members. It's never an easy thing to do. And I do know that my friend Maria has a father who is a narcissist and has narcissistic tendencies. And it's been a struggle her entire life to figure out how to navigate that, deal with that, protect her peace from that. And I reached out to her to see if she would be open to coming on and sharing her story. And I'm so happy that she felt like this was a safe enough space to do that, because it's hard to talk about people that are blood relatives that are in your family that you're so close with day in and day out, that you're still trying to maintain a relationship with, and talk about their flaws and how they've fucked you up. It's not easy. And I'm so glad that she felt that she could come on to FML Talk and share this, because lots and lots of people have asked me to cover a topic in this realm. So without further ado, let's bring on my good friend, Maria. Miss Maria Breese, welcome to FML Talk. Hi. I'm so excited to have you here. A, because I know the shit we're about to get into, but also because you're one of my like good girlfriends, and I don't get to have a lot of my good girlfriends on the podcast.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Do you do a lot of podcasts?
Yeah, I have recently.
They're not going to be as fun as this one?
Definitely not.
Like, where do we even begin? I guess, like, take me back to your childhood and how your upbringing was, and kind of like give us the lay of the land.
Oh God. Oh God, where do I even start here? My parents, I grew up in DC, in the DC metro area. My parents got divorced when I was 6.
Okay.
I was pretty young.
And how was it before the divorce? Was it like toxic in the home? Were you young enough to even remember what was going on?
Oh, I have tried to focus on the good memories that I have. Like, I have this one of Christmas that I like remember specifically, that I like focus on when I try and think of a good moment with mom and dad. But I have a lot of really crazy memories of them together, because there was just like there was always a lot of fighting and a lot of crying and just, stuff that I reflect back on it, because it's like, as a mom now, I'm like, right. Oh yeah, we don't want to do that in front of the kids, because I don't want my son to have that kind of memory. So, yeah. But yeah, it was very toxic. And so my mom moved out when I was 6, and actually it's crazy because they sent me to my grandmother's house that summer in Pennsylvania before they got divorced. And when my mom came to pick me up, she tells the story. She's like, you were in the back of the car and I was in the front driving, and she's like, I said to you, mommy and daddy are going to take some time away from each other. And she said, my response was, well, I guess my life will never be the same.
Shut up.
And she was like, what the hell?
At the ripe age of 6?
6? Yeah. I had just had my 6th birthday, because it was August that they separated. But yeah, I spent a lot of time, going back and forth. And
were you an only child?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have an older brother who's 10 years older. He's my stepbrother.
Okay.
But closest thing to a brother that I've ever had.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of time by myself. And of course, like when your parents are going through divorce, they want to talk to somebody who understands what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I was always that like counselor position for them. And my mom obviously had her girlfriends and, you know, people that were helping her. She was going to therapy. But my dad definitely like put a lot of pressure on me.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
In like what ways?
He would just talk to me about like intimate details about the divorce and like, you know,
oh my
tell
God,
me
that's like 101 of what you're not supposed to do.
100%. And just like tell me all the things that like, well, your mom did bad stuff too. And it's like, okay. I mean, I don't really understand, but
right.
You know, okay, sure. And, you know, they were just, my dad was like, she had a great job. And my dad was just trying to get by as a single dad. And I've tried over the years to like understand his point of view, because when my mom and I moved away, he didn't know where I lived. And now I look back, I'm like, oh, that was for safety reasons. Because, yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. But also to like a single dad, he didn't know where his daughter was. So I think that would make someone a little Looney Tune on top of what they're already going through. So I've tried to see both sides. I've tried to be diplomatic. I understand why my mom did the things she did.
Right.
But I also understand why my dad kind of reacted the way that he did.
What was their like main reason for getting divorced? Like what was the straw that broke the camel's back, or the reason behind it? If you know.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I know. I know. There was a lot of physical and mental abuse. Yeah.
From your dad or
my dad.
Both sides?
No, from my dad. I mean, primarily. And a lot of it with my mom was, you know, very defensive. And, you know, she will even say that, you know, she's like, there are a lot of things I did in response to those things that I'm not proud of.
Right.
And that's, you know, years of therapy have tried to help her overcome that. But yeah, that's kind of why she just finally decided to leave. And because she had this great job, she was kind of taking care of the two of us. And my dad is a musician. He's a brilliant musician. And he just wasn't making a lot of money and just like not incentivized to like step up.
Yeah.
So she finally just was like, I can't do it anymore.
Right.
And then bailed.
So when was it in your timeline of your life that you started, not that you knew what this was, because a lot of people don't know anything about narcissists until they're much older and have like learned the terminology, but when in your life did you start experiencing things from your dad that you would now classify as narcissistic?
So my mom had always used that term, and I had never understood what it had meant. And also I was very focused on myself as a teenager, you know, like as I'm getting older, because I went from seeing my dad every weekend to seeing him every other weekend to seeing him whenever I felt like it, because I was dancing and then, you know, I'd want to hang out with friends.
Right.
I started noticing him wanting to spend like as much time with me as possible, which again, I understand as a parent, your child is growing up and he's not getting as much time with me as he used to. But I would try and hang out with friends and he would like make me feel really bad about it. Or like I'd want to go to dance and he'd try to get me to skip my dance classes. And it was just like commitments that I had made. And he was kind of trying to keep me for himself, which again, I have tried to understand as like, you know, he's always loved me. That has nothing to do with it. But his wants and needs were always more important than the things that I wanted and needed.
Right.
And that's when I kind of started noticing it. When I went to college, he has always been really great at celebrating my wins, but he was never there for like the disappointments. So he was either in the front row yelling, that's my daughter, she's a star, or he wasn't there at all.
Like nowhere to be found.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I mean, the stuff he posts on Facebook, oh, this is my daughter and my grandson, look how beautiful they are. And then it's like, I'll get text messages like the one that I showed you before.
Right.
And it's like, this is not a normal way to treat another human being, let alone your child.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever he's going through or whatever he's doing, it's always more important than whatever is happening in my life. And so over the years, it's just like, oh, that's what my mom meant by narcissist.
Right. So then what are some of like the big, because I know you've had some big explosion type things with him. What are some of the like mile markers that you can look back on that are like the really gnarly experiences and stories?
One I remember very vividly because as a dancer, and I don't know if you ever went through this, but I struggled with body image and weight, like, I mean, everybody's different and some people don't go through it. Some people go through it heavily. But in high school, I had some really bad stuff happen in high school with an ex-boyfriend, and I went through really bad depression, and I just was eating a lot, and I, got hips, and I started to gain some weight. And I remember I was so excited one year, my stepdad got me this sweater from Polo, Ralph Lauren Polo, that I was so stoked on. It was this big white sweater, cable knit with like these hooks for, like, I don't know, what are those?
To attach?
Yeah, like buttons.
Yeah,
button hook buttons. And I was so excited. I wore it to my dad's house for Christmas. And my dad and my stepmom told me I looked fat in my sweater. They were like, this is not flattering on you. This doesn't look good on you. And I was like, okay, well, I really like it. And they were like, you should change because before we go anywhere, we would like you to like look presentable.
Oh my God.
And I started crying because obviously.
How old were you at this point?
I was 15, 16.
Oh my God. That's so detrimental to, first of all, anybody to hear, but a fucking teen in their formative years when like that's everything that everybody's fucking focusing on and society's pushing on you.
And also like as a dancer, you're constantly told like you have to look a certain way. And it was like, this was like a nice break. I'm supposed to be home, right? I'm not supposed to feel that kind of pressure from an outside
And P.S.
source.
I'm always 10 pounds heavier around Christmas. I don't know about anybody else, but like it's every fucking year I'm probably at a higher weight in like my comfier, baggier clothes.
I don't know anybody that isn't 10 pounds heavier after Thanksgiving between Christmas. So I started crying, and then my dad started making fun of me for crying.
What?
And he used to say this stuff to me a lot. He'd say, oh, you're such a great actress. Look at you being such a great actress. Look how well you can cry on command.
And it's so devastating. Like being an actress, I've had boyfriends in the past that have been like,
look at
God.
you go. And it's that's such a trigger for me now when people like, oh, are you really sad or are you just being an actor? And it's like, okay, when can I just be myself?
Right. You're like, well, no, there's tears coming out of my eyes. And like, I don't enjoy, even when I am shooting a film, making myself feel like shit.
Right.
So.
Yeah. The dark place that I have to go to make myself cry. I don't want to be there.
Right.
Like around Christmas, especially.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
So it was always something like that. But God forbid you make a comment about the way that he looks. Or not that I would, but like he has always been super athletic, and he will always tell you about the things that he's doing to keep fit. And, he doesn't ask how I'm doing over the phone. He just talks about his workout regimen. And then it's like anytime I bring something up about myself, he's like, okay, well, I got to get going here. So, God forbid I say anything. And then he's making fun of me for feeling sad that someone called me fat. So it's just kind of like, it's a sensitive thing for me.
Well, sure. I mean, in any realm, that's a sensitive thing to hear and to feel.
Yeah. So it's like always little things like that. And then, the comments that he would make after I had my son, like talking about, oh, look how great you look now. And you really bounced back quickly. And it's like things that should feel like compliments always feel like ick.
Well, and like, why are you focusing on my body that I never asked for your opinion on? Like, that's not where my value lies.
Right.
And is determined.
Exactly.
So how is the relationship with you and your stepmom?
My stepmom is one of the kindest people, and I don't know how she does it, to be honest, because I can only spend short amount of time with my dad. And of course, I feel like it's important that I do spend time with him, because as much as he does have these really negative qualities, like I know he loves me and I know he means well. He deserves to feel love in return, but I have to have boundaries.
Yeah.
And so with my stepmom, she has gotten in the middle a couple of times, and I think learned very quickly, like, not a good spot to be, because I have all these old triggers, and sometimes I'm just not logical when it comes to the things that he says and that he does, because I feel like I'm a kid again, like trying to defend myself. And he would always make these statements as a kid, when I was a kid, like, I'm big and you're small. I'm smart and you're dumb and there's nothing you can do about it. Kind of like Matilda.
Right.
I always really resonated with Matilda.
You're like, Matilda's my girl.
I'm like, where are my magic powers? Why haven't those manifested yet? But my stepmom is, she tries to make light, and she's really good at diffusing a situation. She's got a great sense of humor. It's very dark, but it's like she'll crack a joke and then everything becomes a lot lighter.
Right.
So thank God.
Yeah.
For her.
Yeah. How was it when you met your now husband and that dynamic with him? Was there any sort of weird power struggle, or like how was, that whole situation?
My dad, even to this day, loves to tell Patrick how similar they are.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And it's really, Patrick is my husband. It's really tough on my husband because like he knows all the things that my dad has done over the years.
And the way that he's made you feel.
Oh, he's seen the text messages, and I'll get to my wedding. There was a huge incident at my wedding, or about my wedding. But it's a struggle for Patrick because he doesn't have this dynamic in his family, and he doesn't understand the dysfunction and trying to find, he knows that I'm trying to find like a healthy place.
Right.
But he does really struggle with my dad, and he's very supportive and understanding that I want to have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
But they really don't see eye to eye on a very fundamental level.
I can see how that would be really difficult for someone that you're in a marriage or any type of committed relationship with, to watch someone either be continuously mistreated or watch the trauma that has manifested from being mistreated, and then being like, but I still want a relationship with this person. And you have to kind of navigate. I don't know if you've experienced anything like this. So with my ex-husband and I, when my mom and I fight few and far between, like there's very rare times where we're like upset to the point where I will need to vent about her. But it happens. Like, we're fucking human.
That's natural.
And there were times where like I would be venting about something and then he would agree or say something about her. And I was like, don't you ever fucking talk about my mother like that. I can say whatever the fuck I want, but you're not allowed to speak about her like that. Like, look at the shit card like hand you were dealt with your parents. My mom's a fucking saint. Like, and so it must be a weird dynamic to try and like navigate for him as a partner to, want to take care and protect you, but then also like not be able to really fully speak what he feels about your dad.
Well, I think he feels like he can say what he wants because my dad is not the same as my mom in my eyes, because she has sacrificed so much continuously over and over and over again throughout my lifetime.
Yeah.
While having an incredible career. Mm-hmm. So, and maybe my dad just wasn't given that opportunity. I don't know. I don't know. But I think Patrick does feel like he has an open platform to say what he needs to say while treading in that, like, okay, if you need to vent, I'll just let you have your moment.
Right.
I don't understand your family dynamic, but I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. I will say you're very like level playing field. That you're very, understanding of the other person's point of view and trying to kind of, a lot of people that have dealt with years and years of, a narcissist family member would not be so open and, willing to see their side.
Yeah, I guess I really understand that everybody has their reasons for the things that they do, and everybody has a past, and you do things in life that you're not always proud of. And sometimes traumas just stack on top of each other, and it's like layered trauma, and you don't know where it began and you don't know where it ends. And I'm trying as a third party to understand, okay, their marriage started off beautiful, their love story beautiful, and it ended horrifically.
Right.
And it wasn't because of me, but a lot of things happened to me because of that. Mm-hmm. And I can only control me. And would I rob my son of having my dad in his life? No. You know, my dad is very loving and he has a lot of wonderful things to share, like his music. And when he sits down at the piano and he shares that with my son, like it's special because it was special for us. Yeah. I used to go watch him at his gigs and, you know, sit there with my Harry Potter book in the background and, you know, because what other choice did I have? He was a working single dad. So, you know, I've tried to see both sides, but also there's little excuse for certain behavior. Yeah. And so I do want to recognize that because there was a child involved and you have to take responsibility as an adult.
100%. And I always say your trauma can be a reason for something or a reason for your actions, but it doesn't excuse nor justify them. And it's your responsibility to fucking adjust that and fix that and heal it.
Go to therapy.
Right. Right.
Oh my God, just go to therapy.
Like, what a concept.
Why don't more people just go to therapy?
So take me to the wedding incident.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Which should be the most like joyous and wonderful time in your life.
What a moment. So my mom and my stepdad were in the midst of getting divorced during my planning for my wedding. Mm-hmm. And I got married December of 2019. So I want to say this was like,
oh, that's right, because I didn't go to your wedding because I was in Asia.
Yes, exactly. Dun, 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 book 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, this must have been September, October. So I had this really big struggle because my stepdad had been such a big part of my life. That I wanted him to also feel like he was an important part of my wedding. Right. Even though he's not my birth father, like he did a lot. He made a lot of sacrifices for me as well.
Yeah.
And he was just there for me growing up. You know, he and my dad are similar in a lot of ways as they're both musicians. Mm. My stepdad has his doctorate and was a dean at a university and, you know, went the educational route like my mom. But the way that they're thinking, their the thinking thought track is very different. Mm. My dad is very emotional. My stepdad is very logical, mathematical. So they both brought that fatherly figure. Like I always said, together they would be the perfect dad.
Right.
So together I felt like, okay, I'm well-rounded. Like I've got this. So of course, divorce is never easy. And I had asked my stepdad, I'm like, how do you feel about walking me partway down the aisle? Mm-hmm. And he's at that point was like, yeah, you know, we could talk about it. And I want your dad to also feel like part of it. I'm like, of course. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but it was like either they both walk me down or I walk myself down or my mom walks me down because she definitely deserves that.
Yeah.
And so I had just asked him and something went awry in the divorce process. And my stepdad, who never had a good relationship with my real dad, reached out to my real dad and was like, I'm not sure if you know, but Maria asked me to walk her down the aisle. And of course, my real dad only heard, you're unimportant. You're never going to walk her down the aisle.
Right.
The one moment that you had as a part of this wedding, because being my dad is not enough, it was taken away from you. And it's like, I can only imagine that those are the things that he heard because that's all in the gigantic text message I got from my real dad. Mm. That's all I got. Me. It has nothing to do with you. Y'all, the job is literally just walk me down the aisle so that I can get married to the love of my life.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you. I could have my toddler walk me down the aisle and it would have been fine, you know? So that started like World War III. And the things that my father said to me via text message, Patrick doesn't get angry or come to my defense because he's like, this is your thing. You know, I'll defend you here. I've got your back. But he doesn't reach out to my dad unless it's big. Mm-hmm. And needless to say, Patrick had a few words of his own.
Yeah.
For my dad. And I was like, if you say that, you might never be able to come back from it. And he's like, honestly, at this point, I feel like I mean, the names I was called, I was an utter disappointment. You know, I wish I had a second child because they would have been better than you.
Oh my God.
Like things that you never say to your child.
Yeah.
Like, you're no daughter of mine. And it's like, all because I asked my stepdad, who is an intricate part of my life,
Right.
to be a part of the process of walking me down the aisle.
And so he never called to like, this was all just, he got wind of this information and then this text came.
Yep. There was no warning. It was just like, and that's how he operates. He just explodes. There's no like normal thought process. There's no like, hey, what did you mean by this? You know, your stepdad told me that, blah, blah, blah. What really happened?
Or
No.
can we have a conversation about this? Or my feelings are hurt, or anything that you learn in like being a fucking adult 101.
No, there's none of that. It flies out the window, and automatically whatever I have to say is second to whatever. My dad is also very Republican, which is fine. I grew up in a Republican household. I don't care. You can believe what you want, think what you want, do what you want. But he's very much of the mentality that like men believe other men and like women are kind of secondary, even though he ironically...
Is that a Republican thing?
I don't know, but I've had that experience with like...
What?
No, maybe that's not fair, but...
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But
that's probably not a fair assessment because there are a lot of open-minded Republicans. So I apologize for that. But I mean, it's very much of that like boys club.
Right.
And
right.
that, I think that's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like men believe other men. And, you know, what does your husband think about this? It's always like that kind of a thing. And
right.
You had
like,
a
because
daughter.
God forbid I think this way and it doesn't fucking matter what my husband thinks about walking me down the aisle. Like,
well,
what?
I honestly, you'd think over the years, like once I really found my voice, because my mom was very much of the, it's all right to cry. Speak up for yourself if your feelings are hurt. Like, you know, instilling this confidence in me as a woman, as a person. And then my dad is like, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you feel. Your feelings are silly. Stop being so emotional. And it's just like, but you can be emotional when you feel triggered or when you feel upset. So it was like, your stepdad told me that this is what happened and that's what happened. And it was like, well, that's not what happened. And I don't know, like, if that's just what you heard or if that's... So it was like a huge blow up. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to walk myself down the aisle because screw this. You guys can go both fuck yourselves. And I'm going to walk myself down. I'm going to look really pretty because it's my day with my husband or my future husband. And I don't really care if you show up or not, which my stepdad did not show up. So
wait, why? Oh, okay. I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it kind of, he did buy a ticket but he said it was because there was a snowstorm coming in. So it could have been a very, you know, logical reason. Or it could have been the fact that my mom was there and it was my wedding.
Because they got divorced before the wedding happened.
Yeah.
Got it.
And my brother was there, my stepbrother, his son. So, you know, that side of the family was represented and my stepdad was missed. And, you know, it does suck. But my dad did end up walking me down the aisle. Because
so he still like
still managed to like finesse his way because honestly, I'm at the point where I get so exhausted by arguing with him that like, it was like, you know what? It's my wedding. And if I'm okay with it and it makes him happy and we have our dance, fine. He did end up leaving my wedding early so that he could get to a cruise that he was taking the next day.
I cannot.
He left after our first dance because we had that after dinner and just bailed.
Oh my God, dude. Okay, we are going to take a quick break because I have some news. You guys, my life is now complete because I can officially use Drizzly to deliver my wine to my house for happy hour. They have a massive selection of beer, wine, and liquor, and I may have used more than one of them for a self-love cocktail. You can get drinks for wine nights, events, or parties delivered right to your door in under 60 minutes. No travel, no leaving the house to drive after a drink, and no hassle whatsoever. They connect you to their local liquor store to compare prices and find the best deals on the widest selection of beer, wine, and liquor. So go check out Drizzly now by downloading the Drizzly app or going to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com and use promo code SPICE5 for $5 off your first order. That's drizzly.com and use code SPICE5 for $5 off. And as always, have a self-love cocktail on me. Cheers. All right, let's get back to the show. Okay, we're going to take a quick break because I have some news. Okay, our Postmates bill has been seriously out of control lately, so Tay and I have been whipping up some Green Chef meals in the kitchen. Green Chef lets you choose from a wide array of easy-to-follow recipes perfect for keto, paleo, and plant-powered diets. Seriously, you guys, even I've been able to cook them. Green Chef is now owned by HelloFresh, so there's even more options to choose from. I switch back and forth between brands, and I'm excited that my discount can now get you all of it. It's made getting back to a healthier lifestyle easier with really delicious meals that fit perfectly into our routine. Go to greenchef.com/FML100 and use code FML100 to get $100 off, including free shipping. That's greenchef.com/FML100 and use code FML100 to get $100 off, including free shipping. Let me know what you guys are cooking up with the #1 meal kit for eating well. All right, let's get back to the show. It's like the weird, twisted things that must go on in someone's head to like flip stuff on the other person. Like the stuff that was in that text message, that's like inexcusable.
Oh, the one that I sent you?
No. The one that you just referenced.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's like inexcusable stuff that you don't say unless you're like ready to end a relationship.
Can you imagine if I had said to him, I wish I had any father but you?
Right.
Can you imagine if I, like, in his brain would explode.
Yeah.
Because I'm very conscious, and that's probably why I'm conscious, even in my fights with my husband. You cannot unsay things. Words are powerful.
Yeah.
And so I always think like, okay, how do I feel versus what I'm about to say? And is it out of being emotional, or is this truly how I feel and I need that person to know?
Right.
And so, and I think it stems from my dad, because it was always just word vomit, all these horrible, horrible, horrible things. But I couldn't say those things to him if I ever wanted to have a relationship with him again.
Right. So was there ever a moment in your life where you were like, I'm going to cut this relationship out of my life because it's too toxic?
Yes. We got into a huge fight when I was 21. I was in college, and as a gift, when I turned 7, my dad got me my cat, Star, who was like the light of my life. I was obsessed with that cat. And anybody that met Star, he was like, I used to say he was like Elton John in a cat body.
Oh my God, I love it.
And he was just really mellow, really cool. So that cat lived forever. And in college, I got into a huge argument with my dad, and my dad gave my cat away.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He says because he couldn't take every time he saw the cat missing me. Okay. So he gave the cat away to a friend of his. And I was very confused because, like, well, this is my cat. You can't really give away somebody else's pet. I mean, that's like someone giving Finn away.
Right.
No.
Fucking murder that.
Yeah, exactly. No. So I went back. Her name was Sylvia. And I went to Sylvia and I'm like, I would like to take my cat back. And she's like, well, your dad gave him to me. You can come visit him whenever you want. I'm like,
wait, this is after like years and years and years of you owning this fucking cat.
From 7 to 22.
Oh, I would have someone's head. Like, that's not a thing. You don't just, that's like a child. You don't just give a child away.
A child away because you're upset with somebody.
Right.
And it was like the ultimate dagger. And it was like, okay, I'm definitely done with you, because if you could reach that level
right. You did that specifically to hurt me.
Yeah. And like at the very deepest level. And so maybe 6 months later, Star got really sick with an upper respiratory infection, and I got to visit him the day before he died. And I think he like held on to like see me because he was probably pretty confused living with my dad his entire life and then living with this woman. She did take really good care of him. She made sure that he got really great care. But it's like,
yeah, it's the principle of like, where's my mom?
right.
Oh,
and
my
so,
heart.
and I didn't even get to hold him. He was in an incubator. And so I got
my
to wear the
God.
little gloves and see him through a plastic glass. And I got to say goodbye to him that way. And the next day he died.
Oh my God, my heart. I can't handle it.
So it's like, I mean, if you look at these stories individually, they probably don't, I mean, they sound bad, but it's like a collective of,
Well, yeah,
30
living
years.
with that of years and years and years of that type of like, it's like emotional abuse.
yes,
You know,
That's exactly
what
what
it
it
is. Okay, so after that happened, how did you guys reconcile?
I still do this to this day, but I block him.
Mm-hmm.
I block him regularly. The amount of times I've unfriended him on Facebook, it's kind of scary. But I do block his text messages sometimes when he goes on his rants.
Mm-hmm.
So this time I had blocked him for several months, and something happened. I want to say someone in our family got sick or somebody passed away. I think it was his uncle, one of his uncles. And my stepmom reached out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it was like, well, life is short. So
Right.
like, and then it kind of always, and he always manages to like work his way back into my life this way, because I think to myself, well, if he died tomorrow, how horrible would I feel if we weren't speaking because of something silly? Not that the cat situation was silly.
No, but I get that. And especially it's like in any relationship dynamic, when you have a fight with someone and you're like, oh my God, I can never talk to this person again, or fuck this person, or oh my God, this is like not okay. And I'm putting my wall up. In a week, in a month, in 3 months, you start to feel less of that charge.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's easier for people to kind of like walk back in.
Totally.
Because you're like, well, I'm not as mad anymore. I'm a little more toned down about it.
At the end of the day, it would be so much easier. And I've gotten great because he's kind of conditioned me with this kind of like emotional stuff over the last, 2 decades. I'm really good at finally knowing my boundaries and knowing how to set those boundaries. And then like, if you can't be that person for me, that's okay. And I don't need to be that person for you anymore because I keep giving and giving and giving and you're not giving in return.
Yeah.
So now I can shut that down. What makes it difficult is the fact that he's my blood and you get one real dad in life.
Yeah. It's really tough. I have people reach out to me all the time and they're like, what do I do if, I'm co-parenting with a narcissist and I can't fucking cut them out? Or what do I do if the narcissist is in my family and I can't just cut them out? So I'm interested to know, what are some of your boundaries that you've set with him and how does he react to those and how do you enforce those?
So I have made it very clear that I will parent the way that I see fit. I think getting parenting tips from my parents or, my mom is around my son all the time. And I think it's great if you want to give advice. But at the end of the day, I make executive decisions about what's best for my child. And just so we're clear on that, cool. I've also made it very clear that if you raise your voice, I will end the phone call.
That's a good one.
It's not disrespectful anymore to hang up on you because you've now made the choice to disrespect me by raising your voice. So that's the end of the conversation. I'm going to let you know in advance that if it escalates to that point, that's the end of the conversation. We can come back to it the next day, maybe when you've calmed down, but that's the end of it.
That's a good one.
If you insult me, that's also the end of the conversation because I will do my best to make my intentions clear, to let you know exactly how I'm feeling. If you feel insulted by something that I have said, please let me know because we can discuss it because that's not my intention to hurt you. So let's make the conversation cool, calm, collected and not hurt one another.
Right.
If you send me long rants or you call me more than 4 times in a row, I'm blocking your phone number. If you keep ranting after I've politely asked you to stop, I'm blocking your phone number. And this is just how my relationship has to be with him. And, he can make whatever decisions he wants. I'm surely not perfect. I definitely said and done things, and again, I'm triggered by him. So,
right. It makes it even harder.
Right. But these are the ground rules I've set for myself.
Yeah. So when you told did you communicate those with him? Or is it like, these are my boundaries and I'm sticking to them? But was there a time where you were like, yo, these are what I need you to respect?
Oh, yeah.
How did that go? I can't see that being like a normal conversation.
You know, they all happened at different points. They definitely didn't. It wasn't like, okay, rule number 1.
Here's my list. Let's sign on the dotted line.
Exactly. It would be great if it were that simple.
Right.
Or if conversations were that logical. But, you know, I've had conversations with him in the past. One in particular that I can think of. I really don't like lies. Don't lie to me to make me feel better. Don't lie to me because you think it's easier. I feel like it's so disrespectful to lie to people. And we had this moment. I asked him about my savings bonds from my grandparents when, because when I was born, my grandparents gave me a bunch of savings bonds that I guess mature over time.
Yeah.
So my mom said she didn't know where they were. Obviously, as a minor at that time, I couldn't cash them. I looked it up in the treasury. If you like try and find the savings bonds, they'll tell you what happened if they've been cashed.
Right.
They were cashed. And it could have been one of 2 people. And it definitely wasn't my mom. So my dad cashed my savings bonds. And I confronted him 2016 when Pat and I were living in Chicago. And he came to visit. And I said, look, I don't know why you did it, but I'm sure you had your reasons. And he finally came clean after years of being like, no, I didn't.
Oh, wow.
And he was honest with me and said, look, I needed help paying for the mortgage on the place. And I was like, you know what? Then cool. If you used it for the mortgage, then like, I'm glad that I could help. It wasn't even, I mean, it was money given to me. I didn't, it's not really mine until I cash it, right? Okay. We got into an argument a couple months later and he completely backtracked and was like, I just said that so you would stop bringing it up. I didn't actually cash your savings bonds. And it was like, we took 20 steps back from where I thought we had made some forward movement. And so that's like, for me, I finally said to him, I don't care. Just be honest with me. And it was like, that's kind of what started me laying down the rules. We can't argue because I can't do that in my life. There's nobody else in the world that treats me this way. And I'm just not going to accept that kind of treatment from you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And nor should you.
Right.
I mean, that's insane. It's like exhausting to even just sit here and listen to it because I thankfully have never had a dynamic like that with someone that I'm really close to in my family at all. And I can't imagine, you know, it's almost like every time a text or a call comes in, you're like waiting for the fucking...
That's exactly it. I actually tell my husband this all the time. I'm like, there's usually a time limit. I usually can go a few months and we're like totally cool. And then something sets him off where he like absolutely loses it with me. And then I have to do the whole process over again.
Yeah.
Of like the blocking and not talking to him for a while.
Right.
And it's like
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
So let's talk about the stuff that happened recently and what prompted that.
So, I mean, I can talk about it now. I'm pregnant again.
Yay!
With the little girl.
Oh my God, it's so exciting.
Yeah. So obviously my parents, I told them pretty early on, and my dad was ecstatic and he was excited that it was a girl because he was very excited to have me. I'm his only child and he really wanted a girl. The irony is so not
right.
So I hadn't really, my dad and I, you know, I try and reach out, and I was reaching out to him a bunch, talking to him about family names and like what names, you know, are on his side, just to kind of think of some middle names or maybe a first name we like.
Right.
And my dad does this thing where he likes to send his workouts, because over the last couple of years, he's gotten less healthy. My dad's 74. I mean, he's an older guy. And he's gained some weight, like, you know, we all fluctuate, right? And so he was really excited that he was like getting back into shape and going back to the gym. And I was trying to be so supportive because I want him to be the healthiest version of himself.
Right.
So he's been sending Patrick and I and a bunch of our other family members his workouts that he's been doing and like how he tracks his steps. And
Okay.
I'm like, okay, well,
Yay, Dad.
good for you. Keep going. You know,
Right.
I don't want to discourage him by being like, stop sending me this via Facebook. But like,
Right.
but it's also like a lot.
Right.
And so finally the other day, I just had it because he's just keeps sending me these workouts and like mansplaining to me like how to be healthy. I'm like, okay.
You're like, have you looked at me lately? I'm not the little girl that you called fat in the white sweater.
I do my best
I
to
look like a fucking rock star. Shut the fuck up. Okay, sorry. That might have been like me coming out there, but
no, but you know, like, okay, you know, everybody's got their own things. And if that makes him feel better to explain it to me, fine. But finally I had just lost it. I don't know the way he said it or I don't know, but I'd finally just responded, my pregnancy is going great. Thank you so much for asking. I really appreciate you reaching out, checking on me and seeing how I'm doing. Because just once it would be nice to be like, here's my workout, but how are you?
Right.
Because he knew that I was going through horrible morning sickness. He knew because I told him. But again, I think it went through one ear and out the other. So he responded, well, thank you for asking about my blood clot in my leg that could have killed me. You could at least be a little bit sensitive about what I'm going through. And it was like, oh,
you're like, how did we go from
your workout to my pregnancy? Like I don't know. Usually when someone, maybe I was super passive. I definitely was super passive aggressive with my message, but like.
No, but I get it. Like you want your dad to be able to like check in on you and like not be like sending you workouts and telling you why it's important to work out and be healthy.
Right.
I get it.
Just ask me how I'm doing because like I can only put in so much time and energy into what you're going through. Just once, just like a small comment. Hey, I love you. I hope you're doing well.
Right. Just
something small. So then and then I'm like, Dad, I've tried to call you a bunch. You never pick up the phone when I call. Whoa, boy, that was a big mistake because then it turned into nonstop phone calls. When he gets this in his mind that like, oh, somebody is being hard on me about something, I'm going to inundate them with communication because that's what she's complaining about. So I had 5 missed calls and like 4 different voicemails saying it's August blah 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 at X time and this is your father calling you. You say I never call you, so here I am calling you. And it's just like I'm not available.
It's mean. It's like you're calling me but you're being mean and you're not calling me because you
care.
Yeah.
You're calling because you're trying to prove a point.
Right. Okay, we're going to take a quick break because I have some news. After a month of using Apostrophe's customizable products, I am a fucking fan. I've loved the whole process from signing on to their website full of products, which are all science-backed and clinically proven. I loved taking the quiz, uploading my selfies, and getting assigned a personal dermatologist to work with. I've been using products for wrinkle and fine line prevention, and I am loving the results already. We, of course, have a special deal for you guys. You'll save $15 off your visit with a board-certified dermatologist at apostrophe.com/FML Talk. The code is only available to my listeners. To get started, go to apostrophe.com/FML Talk and click Begin Visit. Then use our code FML Talk at sign up and you'll get $15 off your first visit. That's apostrophe.com/FML Talk and use code FML Talk to get your dermatology visit and save $15. Thank you to Apostrophe for giving my FMLers a chance to get in on your awesome products and for sponsoring this podcast. All right, let's get back to the show.
And so that has been happening for the last several days. And I've been sending you the screenshots like, here we go.
You're like ready to talk about my narcissist father.
And it's just always about him. So finally today I sent a text message back saying, I'm unavailable to answer your phone call right now as I'm on a Skype session or a Zoom session, whatever I was on. I will call you when it's convenient. That's how callbacks work.
Right.
It doesn't just work when it's available for you. Like you find each other when it works. And I'll let you know. Let's schedule something. Yeah. And it's like exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted listening to it. Like I don't understand how people can can function, and like even the anxiety of when it's going to get exhausting again. You know, like you say, you have like a month or two where it's fine. I would constantly have the anxiety of like, fuck, but when's the other shoe going to drop? Like,
Yes.
when's it going to come?
That's the anxiety that I kind of live with. And, you know, because I could never tell what emotion he was going to have that day. My dad is bipolar. I probably should have mentioned.
Oh my God.
But he's
Okay, so it's a whole
unchecked.
nother
He
layer.
refuses to take medication. He will not go to the doctor. So like it then becomes the people around him, their responsibility to deal with it. And it's no longer his responsibility. Which, and I guess maybe that's also why I try to see things from his point of view, because there's more going on than just being, you know, all about me. It's who knows what's going through his mind.
So he's been diagnosed like professionally.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've tried to be, you know, very conscious of that and what he must be going through. But again, it's your responsibility, if you know this about yourself, to go find some sort of
whatever
way
works
to
for
deal
you.
with it. Yeah.
To
To like manage it.
Right.
So that's
Ugh, girl. So if you had to tell some advice to people that are listening that have, you know, a family member that acts in narcissistic ways and is exhausting in this sense, what would you say has been your kind of like saving grace in dealing with that?
try and understand why that person or from like where they're coming from, but then be very comfortable setting your boundaries. Because again, you know, there are two sides to every story. And, you know, if the triggers start to add up on both sides, you can only take responsibility for what you do and what you can control. Understand that they're probably going through some things and there's a reason that they are the way that they are. But control what you can control and set your boundaries and make them very, very clear. And over time, they might move and they might change because as you grow as a person, you know, circumstances change. But be very clear with that person that, like, I am not comfortable with this. This upsets me and I'm no longer going to be available for that.
Yeah.
And I think just setting those boundaries really helps you just find a moment to breathe.
Yeah. And I would piggyback on that, saying that once you set those boundaries, don't feel bad for how the other person reacts to them. It's not your responsibility to take care of someone being hurt in a response to you being hurt that you set in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because undoubtedly, when you set a boundary that somebody else hasn't ever seen you set before, there's going to be an emotional reaction of why are you doing this to me, especially if they have narcissistic tendencies. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to our relationship? You know, me, and how does this affect me? Make sure that they understand it's not about you. This is about me setting boundaries for myself to take care of my mental health because I need to reset in order to have a relationship with you at all if at some point we do.
Yes, 100%. Hell yes. On that note, can you please tell everyone where they can find you and follow you online?
Yeah, you can find me at Maria Breese. I'm just my first and last name on all my handles. So really creative.
I love it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for opening up about, I mean, it's not comfortable to come on here and talk about such personal things that are related to someone so close to you, you know? So I appreciate you coming on and opening up because I know a lot of people unfortunately deal with relationship dynamics like this and it's fucking tricky.
I just hope that somebody listening is like, oh, okay, there is a way out. There is like, oh, this person is going through that too. Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
It's manageable. I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just at least one of you out there.
I guarantee you there's many, many more. I want to say a huge thank you to my girl Maria for coming on and sharing all of that. I know it must not be easy to continually live with that exhaustion that someone like that being so closely involved in your life brings. And I feel like a lot of people are really going to resonate and benefit from her story. So thank you, girl. All right, we are going to take a turn now and get into some of your FML stories. Here we go.
Hi, Gabrielle. Here's my FML story. I'm going to keep it anonymous because it's pretty embarrassing. When I was 19 years old, I was dating a 38-year-old. I know, huge age gap, right? But I had met him at work when I was a cashier at a gas station, and somehow he charmed his way into my life. After 8 months of hanging out and me just seeing him as a friend, he finally started to grow on me, like a fungus. And against all instincts in my body, I slept with him after 8 months of swearing that I wouldn't. It wasn't long after we slept together that he started being a completely different person. If I didn't call him back or text him back when we weren't together, he would start blowing up my phone, accusing me of all kinds of things, saying I'm cheating on him and saying that I have a nasty body and just being a complete asshole and saying really cruel things. I got sick of it. I dropped him like the bad habit that he was because I didn't have time for that shit in my life. 2 years later, I was living with another guy. We had gotten pretty serious. We're watching the news. By the way, this new guy knew my ex and knew that he was my ex. But I digress. We're watching the news and all of a sudden I hear a very familiar name. I look up at the screen and I see my ex's mugshot. He was in custody being charged with sexual exploitation of a child after he had been caught sneaking into his friend's daughter's room, lifting up her shirt and snapping pictures of her with his cell phone. He is now serving 14 years in prison. Well, he's on year 8 of that, but you get the gist. Not one of my finer moments. Fuck my life.
Damn, girl. What? That took a couple different fucking turns and I was not sure where we were going to end up, but wow. You can't really say it's embarrassing for you because you didn't know anything that person was going to end up being capable of. What a fucking scumbag. I am glad he is rotting away in prison for doing that shit. I mean, wow. My jaw was on the floor. You dodged a fucking bullet with that one, girl. All right, here's story number 2.
Hey, Gabrielle. My name is Ashley, and this is my FML story. At 21, I met my ex-husband, Mike. Everything seemed good at first, a little fast. He was going through a divorce. His ex-wife cheated on him. So I move in about a month after we're dating because I lived with my ex-boyfriend, and he was so jealous. He couldn't handle that. So I move in, helping him take care of his 4 kids. I'm basically a stay-at-home mom. 6 months into our relationship, he comes upstairs, tells me that I have to leave because him and Amy are going to try to work it out. That's ex-wife. So I scramble to go to a friend's house, thankfully, to live there and figure out what I'm going to do. So then fast forward a couple months, he comes back to me, says he made a big mistake. Please take him back, all of this stuff. So we slowly start dating. His divorce ended up being finalized a couple weeks later. I moved in the day it was finalized. And then 2 months after that, we get engaged. 6 months after that, we get married. And then we just fight the whole time. He's a complete narcissist. He is controlling, manipulative, just self-esteem out the window, like made me feel like I just wasn't good enough. I already had serious abandonment issues, so I constantly thought he was going to leave me because of what happened the first time. So he goes on being super jealous. I get a job. My parents end up convincing me to get a car of my own because everything was in his name, like everything. I had nothing. And then I'm working, making money, so I'm starting to build up my money. I'm thinking about divorcing him because things are getting really bad. And then all of a sudden, I come home from work one day after we had a conversation like days earlier that we were really going to try to make it work no matter what. He tells me that he is not in love with me anymore. He doesn't want to be with me anymore. Next day, I come home from work like devastated. They had me leave work. I was so emotional. And she is at my house, and it's his ex-wife. And he tells me that they've been talking for 3 months and everything like that. Fast forward, we end up getting divorced. I end up becoming addicted to alcohol, and now I'm finally sober for 2.5 years and married to the love of my life.
God damn, girl. I'm so glad that had a happy ending because it was looking grim there for a little bit of that story. This is like the epitome of you ignoring red flags and ignoring intuition, and then the fucking diabolical shit that will happen if you do that. So I'm so glad that your story had a happy ending and you are now with the love of your life and recovered from the addiction that you fell into. That shit is no joke. So when you have those initial red flags, y'all pay attention to them. They're there for a fucking reason. Next week, everybody, I cannot wait for this episode. I've been excited for this episode to air since I recorded it, and it's all on boundaries. I am joined by Terry Cole, who is a psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and author of the book Boundary Boss, with the best fucking title. And it was a really incredible interview I had with her. She taught me some shit about myself. She's going to teach y'all some stuff. It is one to not miss. And it's so appropriate that this is coming after the episode that just aired today, where we talked all about the importance of boundaries and setting them and what Maria's were. So next week, we are going to really get a crash course in how to set those boundaries and really go there. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed so you never miss an episode. Keep up with us on Instagram at FML Talk Podcast. If you're not hanging out with us on the subscription, that's where all the fucking fun party is really happening. And you can do that at patreon.com/FML Talk. As always, have a wonderful rest of your week and have a self-love cocktail on me. Cheers.